Shalom and good day all, this is Tehillim29 back again for another indie comic review, and in this indie comic review I'm covering Blade in the Dark through Scout Comics and also The Miracles by Joe Glass at CEX Comics. I'll now get things prepared for the first one that I'll be reviewing. So as we jump into the first one, does this cover in any way, shape or form connect to something that is happening inside with the story? Sure enough it does, to which I give a 7 out of 10. Now it's time to move into the area of the internal art, as we have a look around the beginning, middle and of course the end, and also what's happening story-wise with the characters. So as the story begins, we see the main character who has somewhat taken on some demons and meeting some of the locals. As we start to jump towards the middle of the story, the main character gets a reunion with his sister, and there's a bit of violence that takes place. And as the story continues towards the end, before we move into the next issue, whenever that will turn up, who knows, maybe it might be in 3 months or, I don't know, 2. Hopefully not too long. We get to see another fight scene take place with the main character. So, for the internal art, I give it a 7 out of 10. Next is the area of the story. So first things first, does it address anything in the area of time? First is 7 hours later, and that's about all. And I think that's about a little bit after actually a little bit before the midway mark. Of course, the location it's taking place in is in Japan, and the cast of characters, to which we have the name brought up of the Musuku Thief of Faces, and of course the brother and the sister. If I were to criticize one thing, is that one thing that this story really should have done is, considering how long apart each issue is to remind us who the main character is and what their name is, and also what the character's sister's name is, and maybe including some of the people along the way. That's probably about the only thing that's sort of not really working well with the story, because those things aren't being included. To which I give the story rating a 6.5 out of 10. In that, the first one was really good and enjoyable, but the second one, it feels like it's dropped off a bit. So now it's time to move into The Miracles by Joe Glass. So, as we begin with The Miracles, does this cover in any way, shape or form connect to something that is happening inside with the story? Sure enough it does, to which I give the cover a 7 out of 10. As you can see here, we have the main character, who is called Elliot. And he looks a little bit dressed up like Captain Marvel. Just saying. And just, it feels more like femme attire for him. But apart from that, we also see the character reading a comic. And we do actually see that some images in relation to this comic that are shown in this particular story, to which the character is reading. But what's the connection between the comic and the character? That's the next thing. Oh, the overall rating for the cover is a 7 out of 10. Now it's time to move in relation to the internal art, as we'll have a look around the beginning, middle, and of course the end. And then I'll give the rating, and also some of the things that are happening story-wise with the characters. So, as the story begins, we end up meeting with the character of Elliot with his friend Priya, and it's a little bit unsure as to where these characters are going. Is it a university? Is it a college? It's not completely clear. And it's also a little bit unclear as to how old the character is too. Because if I were to criticize or put a bit of criticism, and is that the character looks like they're freaking 30 years old and meant to be, along with one of their friends, looks at least 30 years old and attending, I don't know, a college or university. But I do like the color palette that's used. And it also feels a little bit like, I guess, a gay power fantasy story. Jumping into the middle, we notice that there are some things happening behind the scenes as some certain people are being watched, and we get quite a bit of what's happening news-wise. Until last but not least, we get a bit of a big reveal in regards to who this character's parents are, and realize what the cataclysmic event that occurred with these characters. So in other words, these were comic characters that were isekai'd into the very world which Elliot lives in. So from comic world to regular world. So for the internal art, I give it a 7.5 out of 10, as I did like some of the things that were actually shown in it. Some other things I could sort of criticize about in regards to, there's no indication that this character has done any form of fighting or martial arts. It's just brought out of the blue, and he just goes full Mary Sue. The same goes in relation to his powers. Next is the area of the story, to which in the story we have later, we have time, and for the area of time we have later being used a number of times throughout the story, probably about 3 or 4 times throughout the story. Next is the location. Of course, we get the home, we have Canton, and also New York City. The cast of characters consisting of Priya, Elliot, Duncan, who's sort of like meant to be made as the big bad bully. If anything, he looks bloody related to Elliot. That's how bad the art is in regards to those characters. They might as well be brothers. Then we have the characters of Miss Phantom and Major Voltage. For the overall story rating in this, I give it a 6 out of 10. Until then, let's keep it colourful and have yourself an awesome day. And hopefully the next issue will be a little bit more of an improvement than the first issue, because I want to raise that rating up. So, what can you do for us, Joe?